Hello everyone. In today's video, I bring you a story that will move you. We're going to meet Nathaniel Huxley, a skeptical man who never believed in life after death, until the day he suffered a terrible car accident and literally faced death. What he saw on the other side will leave you speechless. He received astonishing revelations about what's to come at the end of September, something humanity is not prepared to face. So before we get started, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any content like this, and activate the bell to receive all notifications. Now, get ready for a surprising and transformative journey. My name is Nathaniel Huxley, and I'm here to share with you an experience that completely changed my life and my perception of reality. Until recently, I was just an ordinary man, living a seemingly normal life in Austin, Texas. I worked as a financial analyst, spent my days immersed in numbers and spreadsheets, and considered myself a staunch skeptic. Religion, spirituality, life after death. All of that seemed like nonsense to me. Stories created to comfort those who fear the unknown. I lived my life based on logic and reason, or at least that's what I believed. My world was black and white, governed by facts and concrete data. There was no room for the mystical or the inexplicable. I was the guy at parties who always tried to find a rational explanation for the supernatural stories people told. There must be a logical explanation for that, I would say, with a condescending smile on my face. But the universe has an interesting way of surprising us, of turning our world upside down when we least expect it. For me, that twist came in the form of a car accident that nearly took my life. It was an event that not only brought me to death's door, but also opened my eyes to a reality far broader and deeper than I could have ever imagined. Today, as I share this story with you, I'm still processing everything I experienced. It's the beginning of September, and with each passing day, I feel an increasing urgency to share my experience. Not because I want to convince anyone of anything, but because I feel I have a responsibility, a duty to share what I've learned. What I'm about to tell you may seem fantastic, perhaps even unbelievable to some. I know this because if someone had told me this story a few months ago, I would have been the first to doubt it, to seek alternative explanations. But I ask you, listener or reader, to open your mind. I'm not asking you to blindly believe my words, but to consider the possibility that there is more to this world than we can see or touch. This is the story of how I, Nathaniel Huxley, a die-hard skeptic, had a near-death experience that not only challenged everything I thought I knew about reality, but also revealed profound truths about love, universal connection, and the future of humanity. It's a journey of transformation, from fear and doubt to spiritual awakening. And, more importantly, it's a story about a revelation that may have implications for all of us in the coming days. Get ready, because what I'm about to share may change the way you see the world, just as it changed mine. It was a summer morning like any other in Austin. The sun had barely risen, and I was already on my way to work, driving down the highway I had traveled countless times. But there was something different about that morning. In the weeks leading up to it, I had been struggling with insomnia and disturbing nightmares, vivid dreams of catastrophes, of drastic changes in the world. At the time, I attributed it to work stress and my unhealthy diet. That particular morning, I felt especially tired. My mind was foggy, my reflexes slow. I should have realized that I wasn't in any condition to drive, but the routine and the need to get to the office made me ignore the warning signs. It was a mistake that nearly cost me my life. I remember driving, my eyes heavy, fighting to stay awake. For a brief moment, I must have nodded off at the wheel. It was enough. When I opened my eyes, all I saw was a truck heading straight for me. There was no time to react, no time to swerve. The impact was violent, deafening, metal twisted, glass shattered. The world spun around me in a blur of sounds and movement. When everything stopped, the silence that followed was almost as terrifying as the sound of the crash. I was trapped in the wreckage, unable to move. The pain was unbearable, as if every nerve in my body was screaming in agony. I tried to shout for help, but my voice wouldn't come. The metallic taste of blood filled my mouth. Through the shattered windshield, I saw people approaching, Horrified faces looking at the scene of the accident. Someone shouted for an ambulance. A woman approached the car. I later found out she was a nurse who happened to be passing by. She knelt beside me, her eyes filled with compassion and concern. "Stay with me," she said, holding my hand. "Help is on the way. You're going to be okay." Her voice was soft, comforting, but there was something more to it. A certainty I couldn't understand at that moment, as if she knew something I didn't. The minutes that followed felt like hours. I drifted in and out of consciousness, the pain coming in waves. I heard distant voices, sirens approaching. At some point, the paramedics arrived. I vaguely remember being pulled from the car, placed on a stretcher. Words like multiple fractures and internal bleeding reached my ears. On the way to the hospital, I fought to stay conscious. The paramedic next to me talked to me constantly, encouraging me to stay awake, but I felt like I was losing the battle. My vision began to darken at the edges, and a chilling cold took over my body. It was at that moment, swaying in the back of that ambulance, and that I knew I was dying. A paralyzing fear overtook me. I wasn't ready to die. There was so much I still wanted to do, so many things left unsaid. I thought about my family, my friends, all the missed opportunities. But then, something strange happened. The fear began to fade, replaced by a calm I had never experienced before. It was as if a part of me knew that, no matter what happened next, everything would be okay. That was my last conscious thought before the darkness completely swallowed me. Little did I know that this darkness was only the beginning of the most extraordinary journey of my life. What happened next is something I'm still trying to fully comprehend. One moment I was in the ambulance, struggling to breathe, and the next, well, I was somewhere else. Or maybe somewhere isn't the right word. It was more like a state of being. The first thing I noticed was the absence of pain. The intense suffering that had dominated every fiber of my being simply disappeared. It was replaced by an indescribable lightness, as if the weight of the world had been lifted from my shoulders. I felt free, freer than I had ever felt in my entire life. I opened my eyes, or at least I thought I had, and saw myself floating above an operating table. Below, I saw my own body, pale and still, surrounded by a team of doctors and nurses working frantically. It was a surreal scene, like watching a movie about myself. I could hear everything they said, every order given, every request for surgical instruments. "We need to stop the bleeding," one of the doctors shouted. "We're losing him," exclaimed another. It was strange to hear those words and not feel fear. Somehow I knew I was safe, that the body on the operating table was just a shell, not the real me. The strangest part of all was that, amidst the chaos of the operating room, I could hear a song playing softly in the background. It was "Can't Help Falling in Love" by Elvis Presley. The irony wasn't lost on me. A song about eternal love playing while they fought to save my life. But somehow, that song brought me a sense of peace and familiarity in such an extraordinary situation. As I watched the scene below, I began to notice something even stranger. The operating room started to blur, as if it was dissolving around the edges. And then, I felt a presence. It wasn't something I could see with my eyes, if I even had eyes in that state, but something I could feel with my entire being. Turning around, or at least directing my consciousness, I saw something that defied all the logic and reason I knew. Beings of light, enormous, nearly 3 meters tall, materialized beside me. They didn't have a defined physical form like ours. They were more like columns of pure light, so bright that it was almost painful to look at them directly. I was paralyzed, not out of fear, but from sheer amazement. All my life, I had dismissed stories of spiritual experiences as fantasies or hallucinations, but there I was, witnessing something that went beyond any rational explanation I could conceive of. The beings did not speak, at least not with words. Instead, I felt waves of thoughts and emotions emanating from them, as if they were communicating directly with my soul. The message was clear and reassuring. Do not be afraid. You are safe. There is more to your journey than you can imagine. A sense of unconditional love enveloped me, so deep and overwhelming that I felt completely overcome. Tears, if I could cry in that state, ran down my spiritual face. It was as if, for the first time in my life, I was experiencing what it meant to be truly loved and accepted, without judgment or conditions. The beings of light came closer, and I felt as though they were examining every part of my being, not just my physical body, but my essence, my soul. And then I heard, or rather felt, a clear message. You will walk again. You still have much to do on earth. At that moment, I understood that I was being given a second chance, but I also realized that this second chance came with responsibility, a mission I didn't yet fully comprehend. As I absorbed this revelation, the operating room and the beings of light began to fade away. I was being taken to another place, to an even deeper journey beyond the limits of the reality I knew. As the operating room completely disappeared from sight, I felt myself being transported to a vast and boundless space. It was as if I were floating in the cosmos itself, yet strangely connected to everything around me. The sensation of freedom was indescribable, like all the ties and limitations of physical existence had been lifted. Suddenly, I realized I was looking at the city of Austin from above, as if I were a bird soaring over the skyscrapers and busy streets. But it wasn't a normal vision. I could see everything with surprising clarity and detail. Every car, every person, every leaf on the trees all seemed to vibrate with their own energy, connected by invisible threads of light. The most incredible part was that I could feel the emotions and thoughts of the people below. It was as if the entire city was a living organism, pulsing with joys, sorrows, hopes, and fears. I was struck by the complexity and beauty of this web of human connections that I had never noticed before. As I observed this extraordinary scene, I felt a presence beside me. It wasn't the beings of light from before, but something even greater, more vast. It was as if a higher intelligence was watching me, guiding me through this experience. There were no words, but I could feel its thoughts resonating within me. Love is all that matters, said the telepathic voice repeatedly. You must be like a child, free of judgments and prejudice. These words penetrated deeply into my being, making me question all the priorities and values I had cultivated throughout my life. Suddenly, my own life unfolded before me, like a film in fast motion. I saw moments from my childhood, the joys and sorrows of adolescence, the achievements and failures of adulthood. But the most surprising thing was that I could see these events from a completely new perspective. The moments I had always considered important, work promotions, material acquisitions, now seemed insignificant. Instead, the moments that truly shone were those when I had shown love, compassion, or forgiveness. A hug given to a grieving friend, an act of kindness toward a stranger, a moment of genuine connection with a loved one. These were the true treasures of my existence. I was deeply moved to realize how many opportunities for love and connection I had missed over the years. How many times had I closed myself off, afraid to be vulnerable or to appear weak? How many times had I judged others without trying to understand their stories? This revelation was both painful and liberating. Painful because it made me see my mistakes and limitations clearly. Liberating because it showed me that there was still time to change, to live in a more authentic and loving way. As I reflected on these truths, I felt myself being lifted even higher, beyond the city, beyond the earth itself. Suddenly, I was looking at our blue planet from space. The sight was breathtaking. Earth, so fragile and beautiful, floating in the vast ocean of the cosmos. From that perspective, all the divisions we create, countries, races, religions, seemed so insignificant. We were all part of a single human family, sharing a common home on this small planet. The realization of this fundamental unity was overwhelming. The telepathic voice spoke again. See how everything is connected. Every action, every thought, every choice affects the whole. You have the power to make a difference, Nathaniel. Use it wisely. In that moment, I felt an enormous responsibility. It wasn't just about my individual life, but about the role each of us plays in the grand tapestry of existence. Every act of kindness, every positive thought, every choice based on love. All of this contributed to elevating the collective consciousness of humanity. As I absorbed these revelations, I felt a shift in the energy around me. It was as if the universe was preparing to show me something even deeper, something that would change not only my life, but potentially the course of human history. As I floated in this expanded state of consciousness, observing Earth from afar, I felt a new presence approaching. It was different from the beings of light or the vast intelligence I had experienced before. This presence was familiar, welcoming like a warm embrace on a cold day. Turning, if I can use that term to describe the movement of consciousness, I saw a figure that made my heart, or whatever essence of my being I had in that state, leap with joy and surprise. It was my grandfather, Elliot Huxley. My grandfather had passed away more than a decade ago, when I was still in college. His death had been a hard blow for me, not just because of the loss, but because it marked the beginning of my skepticism towards anything spiritual. I remembered thinking, at his funeral, that if there was really an afterlife, why didn't my grandfather give some kind of sign? But there he was, standing before me, more alive than ever. He wasn't the elderly and frail man I remembered from the last years of his life. He appeared rejuvenated, radiant, with a vitality I had never seen before. His eyes sparkled with wisdom and love. "Nate, my boy," he said, his voice exactly as I remembered it, full of warmth and affection. These weren't spoken words in the conventional sense, but thoughts transmitted directly from his consciousness to mine. A wave of emotion washed over me. Joy, relief, love, all mixed into an overwhelming experience. In an instant, I was transported back to the summers of my childhood on Grandpa Elliot's farm. I remembered the sunny days riding through the fields, the nights fishing at the lake, the stories he told around the campfire. My grandfather approached and wrapped me in a hug. It was impossible, of course, we didn't have physical bodies in that realm, but the sensation was real, more real than any hug I had ever experienced in life. It was as if our souls were merging, sharing memories, emotions, and a love that transcended time and space. "You've grown so much, Nate," said my grandfather, stepping back to look at me, not just in size but in spirit. "Though you got lost for a while, I never stopped believing in you." His words touched me deeply. I wanted to say so many things, apologize for doubting, thank him for all his teachings, ask 1,000 questions about the afterlife. But before I could form any coherent thoughts, my grandfather spoke again, his expression becoming more serious. "You have a choice to make, Nate," he said, his voice grave and full of meaning. "You can continue this journey, explore the realms beyond this one, or you can return. But no, something big is coming, something the world is not prepared to face." I was shocked by his words. A choice? Return? Up until that moment, I hadn't considered that I had an option. Part of me wanted to stay, continue exploring this incredible realm, learn more from my grandfather and the other beings I had encountered. But another part of me felt a responsibility, a calling to return. "What are you talking about, Grandpa?" I asked, my curiosity momentarily overcoming my emotion. "What big thing is coming?" My grandfather smiled, a smile filled with love, concern, and a hint of mystery. "The world is on the brink of a great transformation, Nate. Events that will change the course of human history are about to unfold. And you, my dear grandson, have an important role to play." I felt the weight of his words, a mixture of excitement and apprehension growing inside me. Before I could ask more questions, my grandfather continued, "Always remember, Nate, love is the most powerful force in the universe. It is love that will guide humanity through the difficult times ahead, and it is love that you must take back with you, if you choose to return." At that moment, I felt a pull, as if something was calling me back. My grandfather's face began to blur, his form slowly fading away. "The choice is yours, Nate," I heard his voice, now distant. But know that, no matter what you decide, I will always be with you. As the image of my grandfather disappeared, I found myself standing before a monumental decision: stay and explore the mysteries of the beyond, or return with a mission I didn't yet fully understand. Whatever I chose, I knew nothing would be the same as before. As the comforting presence of my grandfather faded, I felt myself being drawn into something even greater, even more vast. It was as if the entire cosmos was opening up before me, revealing secrets I never imagined existed. Suddenly, I was enveloped by a light so bright and pure it seemed to penetrate every fiber of my being. It wasn't a light seen with the eyes, but one felt with the soul. It was warm, welcoming, and at the same time so powerful that I felt completely humbled. In that moment, I knew without a doubt that I was in the presence of the divine. It wasn't the anthropomorphic God I had rejected in my earthly life, the bearded figure sitting on a throne in the clouds. No, this was something far more vast, more incomprehensible, and paradoxically, more intimate than I could have ever imagined. It was as if I was immersed in an infinite ocean of pure love. Every part of me was seen, known, and loved unconditionally. All of my mistakes, my failures, my moments of doubt, everything was embraced and accepted with a compassion that defied understanding. There was no judgment, no condemnation. Only a love so deep and encompassing that it made my previous concepts of love seem like pale shadows in comparison. For the first time, I truly understood what it meant to be loved unconditionally. Amid this overwhelming experience, I heard, or rather, felt, a voice. It wasn't a voice in the conventional sense, but a direct communication with my soul. It was both a gentle whisper and a powerful roar, filling my entire being. "Nathaniel," said the voice, and at that moment, I felt as if my true name, my true essence, was being spoken for the first time. There is something you need to know." I stood still, in reverence and anticipation. What could be so important that the divine itself needed to tell me directly? "At the end of September," the voice continued, "humanity will face a great spiritual impact. Events of biblical magnitude are about to happen. The earth will undergo climatic disasters and changes that will shake the world, and you must be prepared to share this message." I felt the weight of these words sink deep into my being. It was a shocking revelation, even terrifying, but, strangely, I didn't feel fear. Enveloped in that infinite love, I knew that, no matter what came, it was all part of a greater plan. "But why me?" I asked, my voice or thought feeling small and insignificant in the presence of such vastness. The answer came, not in words, but in a deep understanding that unfolded within me. I saw that every soul had a unique purpose, a special role to play in the grand cosmic drama. My journey from skeptic to believer, my near-death experience, all of it had prepared me for this moment, for this mission. "Remember," said the voice, "love is the key. It is love that will guide humanity through the difficult times ahead. It is love that will heal the wounds, unite divided hearts, and light the way through the darkness." As I absorbed these words, I felt a shift in the energy around me. It was as if the very fabric of reality was preparing to show me something more, something that would give context to this shocking revelation. "Watch," said the voice, "and understand." And so, before my spiritual eyes, visions of the future began to unfold, visions that would fill me with both fear and hope in equal measure. Before my eyes, if I can even call it that, the perception I had in that state, scenes of a future that seemed both distant and imminent began to unravel. It was like watching a high-definition movie, but a movie in which I could feel every emotion, every vibration of energy. The first thing I saw was a series of natural disasters of unimaginable proportions. Massive tsunamis swallowing entire coastal cities, earthquakes shaking the ground with such force that skyscrapers crumbled like sandcastles, hurricanes of unprecedented intensity sweeping across entire continents. I saw the sky darkening, not just from storm clouds, but from something more sinister, as if the very atmosphere was changing. reacting to forces I didn't fully understand. The air felt heavy, charged with a strange energy that made the hairs on my body, or whatever the spiritual equivalent of hairs was, stand on end. As I watched these cataclysmic scenes, a wave of despair washed over me. How could humanity survive such chaos? How could we recover from such complete devastation? But then, something extraordinary began to happen. Amid the destruction, I saw people coming together in ways I had never imagined possible. I saw strangers risking their lives to save each other. I saw entire communities mobilizing to rebuild, not just physical structures but social and spiritual bonds. I saw leaders of nations that were once enemies joining forces, setting aside old rivalries in the face of a global crisis. I saw scientists and spiritual leaders working side by side, combining knowledge and wisdom to find solutions. And amid all of this, I saw something even more surprising. A light. It wasn't a physical light, but an energy, a vibration that seemed to emanate from the very heart of the earth. It was as if the planet itself was awakening, responding to the chaos with a force of healing and renewal. I saw people around the world being touched by this light, their consciousness expanding, their hearts opening. I saw a wave of spiritual awakening sweeping across the globe, transcending barriers of religion, culture, and ideology. I then understood that the events to come were not just about destruction but about transformation. It was as if humanity was undergoing a process of death and rebirth on a global scale. The divine voice spoke again. "These are the end times, Nathaniel, but not as many imagine. It is not the end of the world, but the end of an era. It is the birth of a new consciousness, of a new way of being human." As I watched, I saw the earth transforming. The polluted oceans became crystal clear. The air, once suffocating with pollution, became clean and pure. I saw forests reborn in areas that had once been deserts, life sprouting where there had once been only desolation. But the most impressive thing of all was the people. I saw a transformed humanity, living in harmony with one another and with nature. I saw advanced technologies being used not for destruction, but for healing and elevation. I saw a society based on cooperation, compassion, and mutual respect. It was a vision of a world I barely dared to dream was possible. But then, the voice warned me. "Remember, Nathaniel, this future is not set in stone. It is a potential, a possibility. The path to it will be difficult, filled with challenges and crucial choices. That is why you are being sent back." I felt the weight of this responsibility descend upon me. I was being sent back not just as an observer but as an active participant in this great transformation. "Your mission," the voice continued, "is to share what you have seen and learned. Prepare people not only for the challenges to come but for the opportunities for growth and transformation they will bring. You must be a beacon of hope in times of darkness, a reminder of the unconditional love that sustains all creation." As I absorbed these words, the visions began to fade. I felt myself being pulled back, as if an invisible force was calling me back to the physical world. "Remember," the voice echoed one last time, "love is the key. It is love that will guide humanity through this great transition. Trust in love, Nathaniel. Trust in yourself." And with those words reverberating within me, I felt myself falling back into the reality I had left behind. The transition back to the physical world was abrupt and disorienting. One moment I was immersed in infinite light and love, contemplating visions of humanity's future, and the next, I was violently pulled back into my broken, battered body. Pain was the first thing I registered. After experiencing the freedom and lightness of being without a body, the weight and limitation of physical form were almost unbearable. Every nerve in my body seemed to scream in protest, vividly reminding me of the accident that had initiated this entire journey. I slowly opened my eyes, blinking against the blinding fluorescent light of the ICU. The rhythmic sound of heart monitors and the hum of life support machines filled the air. I tried to speak, but my throat was dry and rough, a tube obstructing my voice. A nurse noticed that I was awake and quickly approached my bedside. "Welcome back, Mr. Huxley," she said with a gentle smile. "You gave us quite a scare." As she checked my vital signs and adjusted my medication, I tried to process everything that had happened. Had it all been real? The visions, the encounters, the revelations. It all felt so vivid, so tangible. But now, back in the real world, it was beginning to feel like a distant dream. In the days that followed, as I regained my strength and consciousness, the reality of my situation became clear. My body had suffered extensive damage in the accident, multiple fractures, internal injuries, and a long road of recovery lay ahead. But the hardest part wasn't the physical pain or the challenges of rehabilitation. It was the overwhelming sense of having been ripped from a state of pure bliss and thrown back into a world that now seemed so limited, so small in comparison. I felt a deep sadness, a longing for that state of connection and unconditional love I had experienced. How could I live in this world again, knowing what lay beyond? How could I fulfill the mission I had been given when I could barely move in my hospital bed? But then, I remembered the words I had heard, "Love is the key." And I began to realize that, although I had left that realm of pure light, I wasn't completely separated from it. The connection was still there, pulsing in every beat of my heart. I began to see love in small gestures, in the gentle care of the nurses, the concern of the doctors, the visits from friends and family. I realized that the love I had experienced beyond wasn't something distant and unattainable, but something that could be lived and shared here and now, even in the midst of pain and suffering. As the days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, I slowly regained my strength. Each small progress, moving a finger, lifting an arm, taking my first hesitant steps, was a victory, not just over my physical injuries, but over the despair that had threatened to consume me. And throughout this entire process, the visions and messages I had received remained alive within me. I knew I had a mission to fulfill, a message to share with the world. But I also knew that before I could help others, I first needed to heal completely, not just physically but emotionally and spiritually. So as my body slowly healed, I dedicated myself to processing and integrating everything I had experienced. I began to meditate, to study spiritual texts from various traditions, and to seek ways to translate the ineffable truths I had encountered into words and actions that could be understood and shared. And so, day by day, step by step, I reconnected with the world, but in a completely new way. I was no longer the hardened skeptic who had gotten into that car on that fateful morning. I was a transformed man, reborn not just in body, but in soul. The journey back was not easy. There were moments of doubt, fear, and questioning, but in each of those moments, I remembered the love I had experienced, the mission that had been entrusted to me, and that gave me the strength to continue, to persevere. Because now I knew, with a certainty that transcended all logic and reason, that there was a greater purpose at play, that every challenge, every obstacle was an opportunity for growth and transformation, and that, in the end, love, that infinite and unconditional love I had experienced, would prevail. In the months that followed my discharge from the hospital, I underwent a deep inner transformation. It wasn't just about physical recovery, although that too was remarkable, given the severity of my injuries. It was a complete metamorphosis of my worldview, my values, and my life's purpose. The man I had been before the accident, a skeptic, materialist, focused primarily on success and personal achievements, seemed like a distant memory. In his place emerged someone with a deeper understanding of the interconnectedness of all things, someone who saw love and compassion as the most powerful forces in the universe. My physical recovery was slow, but steady. I vividly remember the day I took my first steps unaided, 9 months after the accident. It was a moment of triumph, not just over my injuries, but over the limitations I had imposed on myself throughout my life. The words of the beings of light echoed in my mind. "You will walk again." They were right, in more ways than one. But as my body healed, my mind and spirit were on their own journey. I delved deeply into the study of spirituality, not just from one tradition but many. I read sacred texts, studied ancient and modern philosophies, practiced meditation and other consciousness-expanding techniques. At the same time, I could not ignore the urgency of the mission I had been entrusted with. The visions of the future, both the catastrophes and the possibilities for transformation, were always present in my mind. I knew I had a responsibility to share what I had learned, to prepare people for the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead. I started small, sharing my experience with close friends and family. Many were skeptical at first, just as I would have been in the past. But there was something in my conviction, in the palpable change in my being, that made them pause and listen. Gradually, I expanded my reach. I began giving talks to small groups, sharing not just my story but the lessons and insights I had brought back. I spoke about the importance of unconditional love, compassion, and unity. I shared meditation techniques and consciousness-expanding practices that I had learned. Most importantly, I emphasized to everyone I met the urgency of our situation. I explained that we were on the brink of great changes, that unprecedented challenges were coming. But I also emphasized that these challenges carried with them the seed of deep and positive transformation for humanity. Not everyone believed, of course. I encountered skepticism, ridicule, and even hostility in some circles. But for every person who doubted, there were others who resonated deeply with the message. I saw eyes opening, hearts expanding. I saw people beginning their own journeys of transformation. As September approached, I felt a growing sense of urgency. The visions I had seen became more vivid in my mind, and I knew time was running out. I intensified my efforts, speaking to larger groups, using every platform available to spread the message. Prepare yourselves, I told anyone who would listen. Great changes are coming, but do not fear. This is a time of opportunity, a call to awaken. Love is the key that will guide us through these turbulent times. As I speak to you now, in early September, I feel a mixture of anxiety and hope. I know the events I saw in my visions are about to unfold. I know difficult times lie ahead, but I also know that within us lies the power to face these challenges, to transform and evolve. My mission continues. Each day is an opportunity to spread more light, to touch more hearts, to prepare more people for what is to come. I don't know exactly how the events will play out, but I trust the process. I trust the love I experienced, the power of transformation I saw, and so I continue my work, one day at a time, one heart at a time. Because I know that each person who awakens, each soul that opens to love, is another light shining in the approaching darkness. And together, these lights can illuminate the path to a new dawn. As we near the end of September, I feel a growing urgency in my heart. The last few weeks have been a race against time, an unrelenting effort to reach as many people as possible with the message that was entrusted to me during my near-death experience. I have spoken at conferences, given interviews, written articles, anything to spread the word. The reactions have been varied, as they always have been. Some call me crazy, others a visionary. The truth is, I feel like neither. I am just an ordinary man who had an extraordinary experience and now carries the weight of knowledge that cannot be ignored. As the days pass, I feel a palpable energy in the air. It's as if the world itself is on the verge of something significant. I watch the news and events around me with a keen eye, recalling the visions I had. I can't predict the future with certainty, but I carry the conviction that we are at a pivotal moment in our collective history. My message remains consistent. Love is the key, no matter what happens. Keep your hearts open. Practice compassion, not just with others, but with yourselves. Remember that we are all one, all part of something greater. As I continue my work in these final days of September, I reflect on my journey up to this point. From complete denial of any reality beyond the physical, I have undergone a profound transformation. And now, here I am, sharing a message of love and unity I never imagined I would be capable of conveying. The visions I had during my near-death experience showed me possibilities of great change and challenge, but also of extraordinary transformation and growth. I don't know exactly how the events will unfold, but I trust the process. I trust the love I experienced, the power of transformation I witnessed. To those who are reading or hearing this now, my plea is this: prepare yourselves, not with fear, but with hope. Open your hearts to the unconditional love I experienced. Practice compassion, empathy, and understanding. Take care of one another and of our planet. Remember, whatever happens in the coming days and weeks, it is not the end. It is an opportunity for humanity to evolve, to transcend our limitations, and to realize our true potential as beings of light and love. I am here, waiting and watching, ready to do my part in whatever comes next. And I invite each of you to join me in this vigil. Together, we can face whatever comes. Together, we can create a brighter, more compassionate future for all. As September draws to a close, my heart is full of expectation and hope. I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but I know the love I experienced beyond this world is real. It is powerful, and it is available to all of us. May we all open our hearts to that love and allow it to guide us through the times ahead. If you enjoyed this beautiful spiritual testimony, leave a like, share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to activate the notification bell so you can watch every new video and help us spread this message to as many people as possible. Until next time.